The nightstick cracked against Dorothy Williams' ribs with a sickening thud that echoed through the empty parking lot. At 73 years old, she had never imagined she'd find herself face down on cold asphalt, her church dress torn and her dignity shattered. The two officers standing over her seemed to tower like giants in the darkness, their badges glinting under the flickering streetlight. What had started as a simple trip to the grocery store had somehow become her worst nightmare. "Please," she whispered through swollen lips, tasting blood. "I didn't do anything wrong." Officer Martinez kicked dirt at her face. "Shut up, old lady. You were resisting arrest." But Dorothy Williams hadn't resisted anything. She'd simply been walking to her car with a bag of groceries when these two officers approached her, claiming she matched the description of a shoplifter. When she politely explained that she had her receipt and had done nothing wrong, they'd thrown her to the ground without warning. Now, as she lay there broken and bleeding, Dorothy's mind raced to the one person who could help her. Her son Marcus, 27 years in the military, had taught him how to handle situations like this. What these officers didn't know was that Marcus Williams wasn't just any soldier. He was Delta Force, one of the most elite special operations soldiers in the world. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Because tomorrow at the same time, we'll bring you another story of Black people leading the way that you won't want to miss. The tactical maps and mission briefs scattered across the table suddenly seemed insignificant. Marcus pressed the phone closer to his ear, his trained instincts already shifting into high alert mode. The secure phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Cutting through the silence of the classified briefing room at Fort Bragg, Master Sergeant Marcus Williams glanced at the caller ID. Mom, and his blood ran cold. Dorothy Williams never called this late unless something was terribly wrong. "Marcus?" Her voice was barely a whisper, broken and trembling. "Baby, I need you." Marcus felt something dark and dangerous unfold in his chest. For over 2 decades, he'd hunted terrorists in the mountains of Afghanistan, eliminated high-value targets in Syria, and executed classified operations that would never see the light of day. He'd kept his emotions locked away, professional and controlled. But this was different. This was his mother. "They beat me, son." The words came out in a rush, punctuated by soft sobs. "Two police officers. They said I was shoplifting, but I wasn't. I had my receipt. I told them I had my receipt, but they wouldn't listen." "Mom, what happened? Are you hurt?" The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed as Marcus processed the information. His mother, a retired school teacher who had dedicated her life to helping children, was being framed by corrupt cops. The same woman who had raised him to respect authority and follow the law was now a victim of the very system she'd taught him to trust. "Where are you now?" he asked, his voice deadly calm. "Mercy General Hospital. They're saying I have 3 broken ribs and a concussion." "Marcus, I'm scared. They're talking about pressing charges against me for assaulting an officer, but I never touched them. I swear on your father's grave I never laid a hand on them." "But don't you have that important mission?" "Mom, listen to me carefully. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anyone without a lawyer present. I'm coming home. There's no mission more important than this." Marcus cut her off. "I'll be there by morning." As he ended the call, Marcus stared at his reflection in the black computer screen. The man looking back at him wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a son whose mother had been brutalized by those sworn to protect and serve. The 6-hour drive from Fort Bragg to his hometown of Millbrook gave Marcus time to think, plan, and most importantly, make calls. By the time he pulled into the hospital parking lot at 5:30 a.m., he had already contacted 3 different attorneys, a private investigator, and an old Delta Force teammate who now worked in digital forensics. What the officers who had attacked Dorothy Williams didn't realize was that they had just made the biggest mistake of their careers. They had hurt the wrong woman's son. Marcus took her hand gently, noticing the scrapes on her knuckles where she'd tried to break her fall. "Yes, I did. Now tell me exactly what happened. From the beginning." "Oh, baby," she whispered, reaching out with a bandaged hand. "You didn't have to come all this way." Dorothy was awake when he entered her room, her face a patchwork of purple bruises that made Marcus's jaw clench involuntarily. She looked so small in the hospital bed, nothing like the strong woman who had raised him single-handedly after his father died in Vietnam. As Dorothy recounted the events, Marcus took detailed notes on his phone. Two officers, Martinez and Johnson, had approached her outside Murphy's grocery at approximately 9:50. They claimed she matched the description of a shoplifter, despite the fact that she was carrying a receipt and hadn't even been inside the store yet. "I told them I was just getting my groceries for Sunday dinner," Dorothy explained. "I had my receipt right in my hand, but Officer Martinez, he got angry when I said I wanted to call you. He said something about uppity old ladies who think their soldier boys can save them." That phrase hit Marcus like a physical blow. These weren't just corrupt cops, they were racist corrupt cops who had specifically targeted his mother because of her skin color and her dignity. Officer Johnson grabbed my arm, twisted it behind my back. When I cried out in pain, Martinez said I was resisting arrest. That's when they threw me down and started hitting me with those sticks. Then what happened? Marcus pulled up the security camera footage his investigator had already obtained from the grocery store. The timestamp showed 9:17 p.m. when two figures in police uniforms began assaulting an elderly woman in the parking lot. Even in the grainy footage, Dorothy's peaceful compliance was obvious. A nurse entered the room, interrupting his thoughts. "Mrs. Williams, Detective Morrison is here to speak with you about the charges." Marcus stood up, his 6'3" frame casting a shadow across the room. "What charges?" The detective, a middle-aged white man with tired eyes, looked surprised to see Marcus. "Are you family?" "I'm her son, Master Sergeant Marcus Williams, United States Army Special Forces." "Now what's this about charges against my mother?" Marcus felt that familiar calm descend over him. The same deadly quiet that preceded every successful mission. These corrupt cops had no idea what they had just unleashed. Detective Morrison shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, your mother is being charged with assault on a police officer and resisting arrest." Officers Martinez and Johnson filed their report this morning. Chief Patterson, a man Marcus had known since high school, greeted him with obvious discomfort. "Marcus, I heard you were back in town. I'm sorry about your mother's situation. But you have to understand." The Millbrook Police Department looked exactly like Marcus remembered from his childhood, a squat brick building that represented authority in their small town. But now, walking through those familiar doors, he saw it differently. This wasn't a symbol of justice anymore. It was the headquarters of his mother's attackers. "I understand perfectly," Marcus interrupted, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to command. "Two of your officers brutally assaulted a 73-year-old woman without cause. And now you're trying to cover it up." Patterson's face reddened. "Now wait just a minute. Martinez and Johnson are good officers. They were responding to a shoplifting call." "From who?" Marcus pulled out his phone, displaying the call logs his investigator had obtained. Because according to the dispatch records, no such call was made. Murphy's Grocery has no record of reporting any shoplifting incident that night. The chief's expression faltered. Marcus pressed his advantage. Well, Martinez said with a smirk, "If it isn't the war hero, come to bail out your criminal mama?" "I've also obtained a security footage from 3 different cameras in that parking lot. Would you like to see what really happened to my mother?" Before Patterson could respond, Officers Martinez and Johnson walked through the door, apparently finishing their shift. Marcus recognized them immediately from the footage. Martinez was the one who had kicked dirt in his mother's face. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Marcus had learned long ago how to control his emotions, how to channel rage into precision. But these men had hurt his mother, and they were mocking both of them. "Actually," Marcus said quietly, "I came to give you gentlemen an opportunity." Johnson laughed. "An opportunity for what?" Marcus didn't move, didn't even blink. "I don't make threats. I make promises. And I promise you this, if you don't make this right immediately, I will use every resource at my disposal to ensure that you face justice for what you did to my mother. To resign quietly and face the consequences like men, instead of having your corruption exposed publicly." Martinez stepped closer, his hand resting on his weapon. "Are you threatening police officers, soldier boy?" "Calm." Marcus turned his attention to the chief. "My mother is in the hospital with broken ribs because your officers beat her unconscious in a parking lot. She's being charged with crimes she didn't commit. And you want me to stay calm? Chief Patterson tried to intervene. Now let's all calm down. The room fell silent as Marcus pulled out a thick folder from his briefcase. I've spent the last 12 hours investigating this incident. I have security footage, dispatch records, witness statements, and medical reports. I also have something else. What Marcus didn't tell them was that his real investigation had only just begun. He placed a photograph on Patterson's desk, a clear image from the grocery store's high-definition security camera showing Martinez's face as he struck Dorothy with his nightstick. This is going to the FBI, the state attorney general, and every news outlet in the state, unless you make this right in the next 24 hours. With all due respect, sir, this isn't personal anymore. This is about systematic police brutality and corruption. My mother was targeted because she's black, elderly, and they thought she was defenseless. The secure conference room at Fort Bragg buzzed with tension as Marcus faced his commanding officer, Colonel Andrews. The mission briefing he was supposed to attend seemed trivial compared to the war he was about to wage against corruption. Marcus, I understand your anger, Andrews said carefully, but you can't use military resources for personal matters. Marcus pulled up the evidence on his laptop. I've documented a pattern of abuse by these officers. Dorothy Williams isn't their first victim. She's just the first one whose son has the resources to fight back. Andrews reviewed the files, his expression growing darker with each page. Jesus, Marcus, this is worse than I thought. It gets worse, sir. I've been in contact with victims' families from 3 other incidents involving these same officers. All elderly African Americans. All charged with resisting arrest. All beaten so badly they required hospitalization. The colonel leaned back in his chair. What do you need? Andrews nodded slowly. Consider it approved. But Marcus, be careful. Taking on corrupt cops in a small southern town, it's not the same as hunting terrorists overseas. I need to take emergency leave to handle this properly. And I need access to some resources that might help level the playing field. No, sir, it's not, Marcus agreed. It's more personal. So what's the plan, boss? Tommy asked, his fingers already dancing across a laptop keyboard. 3 hours later, Marcus was back in Millbrook, but he wasn't alone. The black SUV parked outside the police station drew curious stares from passersby. Inside sat Tommy Chen, a former Delta Force communications specialist who now worked in cybersecurity, and Sarah Mitchell, an investigative journalist who had built her career exposing police corruption. Marcus thought of his mother, lying in that hospital bed with tears in her eyes. They made it public when they decided to beat an innocent woman. Now they get to face the consequences. We're gonna give them exactly what they gave my mother, Marcus replied. No mercy, no quarter, and no way out. Sarah held up her camera. I've already reached out to my contacts at CNN and the Washington Post. This story is gonna be huge, Marcus. Are you ready for that kind of attention? How do you know that? Tommy looked up from his computer. I've got something interesting here. Martinez has been involved in 12 excessive force complaints in the past 5 years. Johnson has 8. And guess what? Chief Patterson has been covering for them. Because I just hacked into their internal affairs database. Every single complaint was dismissed without investigation. Patterson personally signed off on each dismissal. Tommy, I need you to dig deeper. Sarah, I need you to find every victim these men have brutalized. And I need both of you to understand something. We're not just fighting for my mother. We're fighting for every person who's been failed by a system that's supposed to protect them. Marcus felt that familiar calm settling over him again. This wasn't just about 2 corrupt cops anymore. This was about an entire system designed to protect the guilty and punish the innocent. As night fell over Millbrook, Marcus Williams began implementing a strategy that would make these corrupt officers wish they had never heard the name Dorothy Williams. Marcus met her gaze steadily. Through legal channels and concerned citizens who want to see justice done, the evidence room at the FBI field office in Charlotte looked like a war room by Thursday morning. Agent Rebecca Torres, a 20-year veteran of the Bureau's Civil Rights Division, stared at the mountain of documentation Marcus had assembled in just 72 hours. This is incredible work, Sergeant Williams, she said, flipping through witness statements. But I have to ask, how did you obtain some of these internal police documents? "We have 7 victims now," Sarah Mitchell reported, entering the room with fresh coffee and a grim expression. All elderly African Americans, all beaten by Martinez and Johnson, all charged with bogus crimes to cover up the brutality. Tommy Chen coughed quietly from the corner, his laptop screen angled away from the agent's view. They both knew that some of the evidence had been obtained through less conventional means, but everything they'd found was real and devastating. Agent Torres pulled up the security footage on her computer. This video alone is enough to arrest both officers immediately. But what really concerns me is the pattern of cover-ups by Chief Patterson and the city administration. Marcus had discovered something even more disturbing during his investigation. The brutality wasn't random, it was systematic. Martinez and Johnson were specifically targeting elderly Black residents in lower-income neighborhoods, knowing that their victims would be less likely to have the resources to fight back. "There's something else," Tommy said, finally turning his laptop around. "I've been tracking their financial records. Both officers have been making cash deposits that don't match their salaries. Large deposits, always within 48 hours of these arrests." "Meaning what?" Torres asked. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Torres picked up her phone. "I'm calling for a full federal investigation. This goes way beyond 2 rogue cops." "Meaning someone's been paying them to terrorize these people," Marcus replied. "This isn't just police brutality, it's organized intimidation for profit." But Marcus's phone buzzed with an urgent message from his mother's hospital room. His blood turned to ice as he read the text from Dorothy's nurse. "2 officers here demanding to arrest your mother. She's asking for you." His mother's life was in immediate danger, and he was still 20 minutes away. As he raced toward the hospital, Marcus realized that exposing the corruption was only the beginning. Now Martinez and Johnson were desperate, and desperate men were dangerous men. "I have to go," Marcus said, grabbing his jacket. "They're making their move." The hospital corridor erupted in chaos as Marcus arrived to find Martinez and Johnson attempting to handcuff his mother in her hospital bed. Dorothy, despite her injuries, was sitting upright with a dignity that made Marcus's heart swell with pride, even as rage consumed him. "Get your hands off her," Marcus commanded, his voice carrying the authority of a man accustomed to life-and-death situations. Martinez spun around, his hand moving toward his weapon. "This is police business, soldier boy. Your mama's under arrest." Marcus smiled coldly. "Interesting timing. 12 hours after I file a federal complaint, you suddenly discover new charges? For what crime?" Marcus demanded, stepping closer. Behind him, Tommy and Sarah entered with cameras rolling. "Obstruction of justice and making false statements to federal agents," Johnson replied, but his voice lacked conviction. The hospital security chief, a former military man named Roberts, appeared with 2 guards. "Officers, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Mrs. Williams is under medical care and cannot be moved without doctor's approval." Martinez's face reddened. "Don't interfere with police business, Roberts." "Actually," a new voice said from the doorway, "this is federal business now."